New polling out of New Hampshire shows Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren leading the Democratic field of possible presidential candidates. And it gives President Trump a wide lead over potential Republican primary challenges. Warren leads former Vice President Joe Biden, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, and several other candidates among likely Democratic voters. CBSN political contributor Michael Graham writes that the polls on the Republican side indicate President Trump is consolidating support among his base. Michael joins us now from Boston. He's a columnist for the Boston Herald and politics editor for NHJournal.com. So, Michael, let's start on the Republican side. What does President Trump's lead over potential challenges signal to you in terms of his 2020 prospects?
Well, it's interesting. About 2 months ago or so, we reported on a poll from another polling group that had John Kasich just 6 points behind President Trump among Republicans in New Hampshire. And, you know, the Granite State has given some incumbent presidents some trouble in the past, from George H.W. Bush to LBJ. And so you don't want to have to fight your way through New Hampshire as an incumbent president. Now that gap has gone up to 40, in some cases 50 points with people like Senator Jeff Flake. And it just shows that this Republican Party is Trump's party. Everyone else is just renting space. The party's in with him. If you look at the national numbers of the folks at 538, do a lot of data analysis. They pointed out that it's very unusual for a president to have less than 85 or 90% support of his own party in his first year. During Trump's first year, he got down to 70 at one point. And that's why his polls were kind of bad even for him. He's been consistently right around 41, 42%. Largely because about 89 to 90% of Republicans have come home. And that's very good for him from the standpoint of driving people like Kasich or Flake or Bill Kristol, whoever out of the field. I mean, who are you going to go to vote for you? And that's also important for him now because in the middle of this mess that he's in, so far, his base is sticking with him despite the Stormy Daniels story.
And you raise an interesting point in your piece. If President Trump is popular with such a large share of his Republican base, then who are these never-Trump Republicans? Who are they speaking for? Who are they speaking to?
And that's a good question, too. I'm not a big Trump fan myself, but the fact is the party has decided to go this way because a lot of them, I think, buy into. You may remember, Errol, before the election, there was this piece written called the 9/11 election, that basically America was headed for doom and you couldn't afford to have the niceties of politics and respect and civility. You had to kick in the door of the cockpit and save the plane. That's what you had to do. And so a lot of Republicans have decided that on issues from religious liberty, which the president talked about today, to taxes, to foreign policy, that they've just got to stick with Trump and try to push their ideas forward.
Now, in the same poll that we've been discussing, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren led a group of Democratic candidates. When Warren was taken out of the poll, though, however, Joe Biden received the most support. Any of those numbers jump out at you and surprise you?
Well, I talked to the pollster at Suffolk University, David Palagos, who's very good, and he said what jumped out at him was when they ran the numbers without Elizabeth Warren, Biden did okay, Bernie did okay, former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick was up at 8%, not bad. As soon as they put Warren in, those numbers started collapsing. Biden lost a third of his support. Bernie Sanders, a progressive like Warren, lost more. Deval Patrick lost half of his support. And what he says is that shows him that it's ideas that are going to drive Democrats to pick their nominee. Joe Biden's a guy you pick if you want a safe pick who you think can get moderate votes, maybe compete on those Rust Belt states, try to pull Pennsylvania, Ohio back from Trump. But if you want to have a progressive who's going to go in cleats high after the president and fight for the ideas of the left, then that's the Warren-Sanders model. And right now, Liz Warren is the champion of those progressive voters.
But nothing like progressives to encourage super conservative Republicans to turn out come election time. So in your view, which Democrat from this poll would in reality give President Trump the most trouble in a general election?
Okay, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to quote someone smarter than me. I talked to Michael Broen, the editor of the Almanac of American Politics for years, who follows this. He doesn't think that Liz Warren's going to be the nominee. He really thinks this is going to be one of those cycles after you go through the midterms, pick through the rubble, that there'll be some fresh face, whether it's a Kamala Harris from California or whether it's somebody we haven't even talking about. He says, watch for that. That's his prediction. And, before Trump, they used to say in politics a year is an eternity. With Trump, it's like, 75 minutes isn't it? I don't know. We can make it this interview without something new breaking. Right. So who knows what's going to happen? What's significant, though, to me, the progressives are going to drive the pick for the Democrats, and that is really Trump's best hope. He wants a rematch of 2016, where there's a nominee that a lot of Americans are just uncomfortable with, and so they pick Trump as the lesser of two evils. He's never going to be above 45, 46%. This is not going to happen, so he needs that scenario again.
Always wise to quote people smarter than you and surround
yourself with them.
And there are a lot of
a frightening large number of them, Errol, I'm sorry to say.
Well, that's why I'm calling on you for this chat. Michael Graham joining us from Boston.